Hello everyone, welcome back to Europa Universalis 4 Extended Timeline AI Only campaign going from 2000 to 2100. Rightio, so this is episode 15 and we are just going to do a quick overview, 3/4 of the way through the series, into the Army and Navy sizes now that quite a bit has ramped up. Currently have a huge war. Russia's being absolutely decimated at the moment, but we are going to have a quick check of the army sizes, the navy sizes, as well as development. So, let's have a look at the armies. As we can see, the losers here are the European Union, the pirates, the natives, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, this is the actual HRE in the game. European Union takes the place of Gen Mayan, so they're actually a country on the minimap, even though they're not, if that makes sense. They're off the map, but they are present. Pirates, I don't know why they're natives, same thing. But St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the only actual country here, and they have zero soldiers. Anyway, so they're the losers. Now, if we go back to the actual totals, we have the the United States of America as the top dog with 1.92 million troops and 2.13 million manpower. That is pretty huge. 1.92 million. Wow. And then we have China coming in very far behind the US, at currently about 1.1 million troops. However, they have a total force limit of 1.3 million. And then we have India. Again, we are essentially halving it here, with India has currently 650,000 troops. Apologies, and they have a cap of 656,000 troops. Then we have Germany, 530,000 troops at the moment. Then Indonesia with 315,000. Then Saudi Arabia with about 295,000. Then Italy with 268,000, and they are well over their force limit. That's actually very interesting that Italy is that far up, considering they don't own too much. Just Italy itself, or modern day Italy in our timeline. We'll have a quick look at development though and see whether that is a correlation. Anyway, we also have Great Britain at 250,000, actually behind Italy. Then we have Japan with 221,000. Again, that's surprising that they're down that far. 204,000 for Korea. That's pretty huge. And then we have France at 202,000, then Spain at 197,000, Brazil at 172,000, or with a total cap of 270,000, which is huge compared to their actual population. And Japan also, if we take a look, their actual force limit is 336,000, so they are way behind in troop count. Then we have Canada, 134,000 with a cap of almost 200,000, and then Poland with 134,000 current troops with a force limit of 144,000. It's very interesting. Now let's move on to the navies. If we go by total ships, there's a lot of countries that don't have ships because they're inland, of course. But if we have a look overall, the United States of America, again, capping out the entire list, and I think that will be a recurring theme as we go to development. But they have 0 galleys, as with Great Britain, and they have 650 total ships, and they are right at their cap, as is the same with Great Britain, who have 330 ships and are at their cap. Then we have China at 314 ships. It's quite significant that Great Britain etches out China here with the second greatest navy. We have Indonesia with 273 total ships, Japan with 216, Italy again, and they are even further up this time with 208. They're a major player even though they haven't been doing much, which is quite interesting. Then we have India with 197, 197, oh dear. That's quite surprising that they're that low, considering they're third in army size, but oh well. Then we have Saudi Arabia with 172, Brazil with 167, Spain with 165, and here we see the Netherlands actually eke in here with 165, on par with Spain, which is quite amazing. Then we have Korea with 156, again they've dropped a bit. We have Mexico with 148 ships total. Now there's not too many countries that actually have galleys. China has galleys, Japan has galleys, Italy has galleys, Saudi Arabia has galleys, Korea has galleys, Denmark has galleys, and Egypt has galleys. So that's about 7 out of the top 15, I do believe this is. Yeah, top 16. Oh well. So there's not too many countries with galleys. But we have Denmark at 121 ships and Egypt at 94, bottoming out the thing. So as we can see, there's quite a difference between land power and naval power. Now I'd like to have a quick look at the total galley count. So Denmark is at the top here, then Japan, then China, then Greece. Now they were nowhere near, but Greece is now there, then Italy, then Korea, then Saudi Arabia. So this changes quite a bit, and Denmark, amazingly, just completely tops that. Now, if we go heavy ships, then it's the US, China, Japan, then Great Britain. So that is more reflective of the actual land power, the heavy ships. So let's have a look at light ships. Yeah, this is essentially the same, apart from Indonesia beating out China. And transports, yeah, about the same. Anyway, that's all quite interesting, but now I have to go digging for the development map mode, which I always forget about. No, we want total development. That's not it. Apologies, give it some time. Rightio. So, have the United States of America once more. At 11,249 development, that is huge. Then we have China at 9,591. Now, what's interesting there is their military is tiny compared to the US. Well, it's not tiny. Okay, their navy is quite small and is not very reflective of their development, and that's probably due to the fact that their naval, or their coastal provinces, there's not too many, but oh well. Then we have India at 5,425 development, Germany at 3,094, Japan at 2,741, Saudi Arabia at 2,614. That's pretty high. Then we have Indonesia at 2,479, Russia at 2,280, Brazil at 2,193, Great Britain at 1,878, Italy at 1,841, France at 1,789, Spain at 1,620, Canada at 1,592, and Mexico at 1,469. Now what's interesting is a lot of those are continental powers. So we have China and US, of course, at the max. Now if we go and have a look, because this is going to be mostly the overview episode, let's start in Canada. Canada has developed quite significantly from the game start, slowly working their way north in terms of development. Nova Scotia still looks alright. The Prince Edward Island, not getting too much development. New Brunswick also doing well. Now, the main strip here, from Quebec down to about Toronto and Niagara, have been getting much more development, of course. Ontario there, Royal Mountains, Appalachians, all that. Now, these are all the English names, and I'm just thankful they're not all French, is all I can say. My French accent is terrible. Well, my pronunciation at least. And then if we go over to Western Canada, we do have some more development here also in British Columbia. Now let's go have a look at American Cascadia, or, if you like, Alaska. Yeah, not too much development here. Now let's drop down to the big beasts themselves. So let's start on the west coast. We do have some glaringly obvious anomalies in Northern California and quite a bit of Oregon, actually. quite a bit of Oregon and a bit of Washington. And then the border with Canada is also relatively poor. Then we have the inland area near Colorado and Wyoming and Idaho and a bunch of other stuff. The states aren't very clear here, so you'll have to forgive me there. And a bit of Arizona is also not very developed, Tuscan being more developed than actual Phoenix. Then we also have this bit, which is part of Texas and part of Oklahoma, I do believe. And now if we go over this way, one orange province in the main bit over mountain in the Appalachians, and in the far north we have most of Maine and the northern bits of Vermont and New Hampshire, which are underdeveloped. And if we drop down into annexed Mexico, or Mexico, yeah, the development's alright here. Actual Mexico, though, very, very nice development now. Of course, some glaringly obvious bits in Honduras and Nicaragua, but it's not too bad. The nations, the Caribbean nations here are looking quite good. St. Thomas is owned by the US, which is interesting, and Bermuda doesn't have much development either. Now if we drop down to Venezuela, their northern part is hugely developed, probably thanks to the high starting development of Colombia and Venezuela themselves, whereas the Amazon is not as developed. Peru, quite significant development here. Ecuador still exists as well. Now Brazil has managed to ramp up hugely its development of the coastline, but they're still not there in terms of development, and they could still be wrecked by, say, Argentina, who looks a bit like Mexico but with more red development provinces. I personally prefer the old system. I wish they just times it by 3, because it's clearer to see what provinces are much less developed, because there's a big difference between a 3 development province and a 9 development province. A factor of 3, if you will. Now let's head over to Africa, and of course we have the Spanish Maghreb, which has been quite developed, and Algeria has regained, same with Morocco. And Egypt hasn't done much. They have moved a bit into Tirana, and they have Libya, but they have not developed their desert provinces very much, if at all. I mean, it's still very cheap for them to develop Fayoum instead of like Al Wata and the Sinai. It's most of the provinces they own aren't really worth developing in the south. However, in the north, where they have well, what is in our timeline Israel, they do have some quite nice land. So let's drop down to the Sudan. They have not developed very much at all, same with Eritrea, and Djibouti also has not. Ethiopia has developed, not very much at all though. Somalia grew instead of actually developing its provinces that much. They just grew and annexed Kenya, which was quite a nice move, and definitely tripled their income. Tanzania, not very much development here, if at all. Swaziland, of course, annexed some more land. Madagascar, looking very nice. Gabon is also looking very nice. Zambia is huge and does have quite some significant development. But if we drop down to South Africa, we can see that that is, they have had some taken away from them. Not very much, but still enough to, worry some people. And of course the interior of South Africa to some degree is developed, to others is really not. Now if we head up to Nigeria and Central Africa is doing really well development wise compared to its surroundings, and as you can see they've left some remnants in Sudan with some very good development. Nigeria proper looking very good, however they are immediately almost surrounded by much less developed provinces. There's no kind of soft transition, it's kind of just instant, as we can see with annex Benin, and when we drop down into Cameroon and Gabon and whatnot. Now, if we head across to Ghana, of course, is very, very, very well developed. Togo, not so much, and a lot of the countries here are actually a lot poorer than in other places. So even old Democratic Republic of Congo is probably the poorest area, along with the Sahara, in this timeline. However, in terms of actual populated areas, West Africa is pretty poor. And also you have Chad, which is huge now and not that well developed. Anyway, head across to the Middle East, where we have Saudi Arabia with quite significant green. They do have a better transition to their less developed provinces than, say, Nigeria. However, of course, there's some glaringly obvious areas that Yemen used to occupy, which are quite obvious, and also one province in Oman. Also a Jordanese province, Jordan province. Anyway, and they also took the hinterland of Iraq, and Iraq proper. Now, Iraq just stretches, they are quite rich now. This entire area, the Fertile Crescent, and the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers, very, very well developed in this timeline. Azerbaijan, also looking quite good. And Turkey, surprisingly, has not developed as quickly as Saudi Arabia. Perhaps that is due to them still seeking European Union membership. And then we head over to Greece, where the transition between poor regions, we can see it. However, they are getting more on par. Now, the most obvious, however, is Albania. They have a very poor southern province, and a very rich northern province, which makes no sense because the richest province is also the hardest to develop in. We have Serbia and Montenegro, which actually incorporates Serbia, or modern day Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. And they're looking pretty good. Serbia getting most of the development, of course. Then we have Bulgaria, which is just one province, and not looking too great now. We have Romania. They look alright. Moldova. We have the Ukraine, not looking too good at all. They still, however, own the Crimea, which is quite developed. Then we head over to Central Europe. So Slovakia, very well developed. Poland has that smooth transition I do appreciate between its richer provinces and its poorer provinces, with most of the poor provinces being situated in the south and the extreme north. Czech Republic looking very good indeed. Germany still has some work to do in Mecklenburg, and Bamberg, Chemnitz, and Ravensburg, Ulm, Resigor, and Baden. But overall, they're looking pretty good. Oh, and Ostfriesland. But if, however, we have a look at Italy. Now, this was of interest to me because they are pretty well developed. Compared to their neighbours, at least, they have probably on par with France kind of development. I mean, they are very close to having all green provinces, don't get me wrong. But considering the actual terrain, for the most part, in Italy, it's quite significant that they are that well developed. Then we have France, who is actually probably one of the least developed of these nations here. We have Great Britain, Ireland, Spain. Spain not looking too great either. Probably the worst, however they have expanded. Head up to Denmark, looking very good. Sweden, yeah, could be better. Norway's looking better than Sweden, but oh well. Finland also looking quite nice, of course, in the extreme north. We have some issues. Russia is all over the place. Belarus, yeah, some glaringly obvious issues there. Azerbaijan, and Georgia's dirt poor, but Azerbaijan looking quite nice. Then we have this mess over here that we call Central Asia, one province Kazakhstan as well. But Uzbekistan, yeah, quite poor for the most part, makes sense because Samarkand and Bukhara are down here. Tajikistan also pretty well developed for mountains. Turkmenistan, India, of course. Doesn't have quite the continuity I would appreciate, but it's alright. Nepal, yeah, they're keeping up. They are probably one of the most well-balanced countries in the game at the moment. However, we have Southeast Asia first. Let's ignore China. So we have Laos, Vietnam. Yeah, as we can see, the Chinese swooped in, and of course the regions there are just very, very poor now. And then we have Indonesia, Malaya, and Indonesia. And yeah, they're looking pretty good. Let's drop down to Papua New Guinea. Yeah, pretty poor still. Australia does look pretty good. Eventually, I'm hoping it will get to about this point here, where the development goes. We won't get into Western Australia development. Actually, we will. Never mind. Hopefully this develops along the coast a bit more here, and Esperance as well. New Zealand, also looking alright, and a bunch of little islands, most notably Samoa, sorry. The Philippines, they look pretty good. China, whew, yeah, that's a problem. They'll get to that, I guess. Korea and Japan also looking quite nice. And that's about it for development. Now that was our overview episode. Join me next time where we will finish off this war with Russia. Well, not us, but China and the European Union. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully they become a bit less of a problem. Anyway, till next time everyone, you know the drill. I'll see you all later.